Hello there. Today we're going to tie this. This is a small nymph. But the first thing we need to do in order to make this is to make the orange eyes here, because the orange eyes are not available for purchase anywhere. So what we're going to use to make these is some loon hardhead and some monofilament in fairly thick. This is 0.48. 45 pound. So I'm gonna take a small piece of this monofilament. Then I have the two ends here. Just gonna the flies. I'm gonna remove the fly. It's gonna make it easier. And basically I just apply some heat to this. Then the monofilament will shrink back. And this will give me the eye. So there I have one of them, and then I make the other one in exactly the same way. And of course I try to make these as even in size as possible. If you're tying many flies, then it's a good idea to make several of these at one go. That one was not, yeah, it's okay. So now I have the two eyes here, as you can see. Then I'm gonna put them in one of these. You probably use them for holding flies or something like that. So basically, so they'll have a place to dry, like so. And then I'm gonna apply the orange. For this fly we want orange, but you can choose any other color. But this is a nice way of making these sort of eyes, but also to make shrimp eyes and stuff like that. So basically, just add a bit of orange varnish to these, just to give it that orange hue that looks nice for this fly. That was the first one. Also, this will make them slightly bigger due to the fact that they're going to be covered in this paint here, coated in this paint. And of course you have to take into consideration what size of hook you're using. I'm using a fairly large one, so it's easier for you to actually see how this fly is made. This is a size, I'm going to use a size 8 Arex curved nymph hook. But as you can see now, I have both my eyes here, and they will be off to dry here to the side while I tie the fly. So this is going to be a barbless hook, because fishing for trout, I think that a barbless hook is a nice option, and I use that most of the times for tying dries and nymphs and stuff like that, for grayling and trout. Basically, I just cover the hook here with some tying thread, moving a bit down into the hook shank, into the hook bend, of course, like so. And then I'm going to use some Brahma. And Brahma is a very nice nice feathers from whiting. It's been quite difficult to get some partridge, to get a complete partridge skin, and I find myself using these Brahma more and more for nymphs and stuff like that. These comes in some awesome colors, and they're easy to use. And once you have tied these down, the effect on the individual fly is very hard to distinguish from the partridge. The pattern of markings on these feathers are remarkable, close to partridge, and these are cheaper than a full partridge skin. And there are more usable feathers. They're easy to spot and stuff like that. So this is definitely a good way to go. As you can see now, I have added just a small tail here. And the next thing we need to tie down is some vinyl rib in the smallest part. That's called. Oh, this is actually a medium. I thought this was the smallest one. Okay, this is a medium, but it's the one I've been using. I thought it was the nymph one. Oh. Okay, there you see. And there is a smaller one. That's probably better for even smaller flies, of course. I'm gonna cut, but for the purpose of this and for this size, this will do. This vinyl rib has a flat end and then kind of like a bit curved one. And what you want to do to have this the right way is to tie it down so that the flat side is pointing towards yourself, like so. Because when we start turning this, then the curved side will be the one that is up. And then basically you just tie everything down here. And this is going to be the foundation for our body. And in order to give this the right tapering effect, I'm going to tie this all the way up along the hook shank. I'm just going to cut some of those off. We don't need those. This will make your body more uniform and easier to control the size of it. But I want a portion of this to be without, because we have to have room for the eyes and stuff like that. So leave about 3 or 4 millimeters, 3 millimeters, something like that, without anything on there. Then we move back down to the tail, and then we apply some dubbing. Here I have some SLF squirrel dubbing that I have mixed in with some ice dubbing in flesh. For some reason, one of my lights is acting a bit up. I don't think it will do anything to our tying session like so. And then I apply this in small quantities in the beginning, because you want this to have the right tapering effect. So you want a very, very small amount in the start here, close to the tail, and then gradually you want this to be more dense and more thick as you move up the hook shank. I saw this fly on the internet, or something like this on the internet, made by someone called Barry Ord Clark. He has a website that's called The One Fly, and he is really, really an awesome dude. He ties some really outstanding flies. So if you have the time, swing by and see his website, The One Fly. He also takes amazing, nice footage of his flies as well. That website is definitely worth a look over. So again, just applying a bit more dubbing, a bit at a time, to ensure that this is done nicely, and the distribution is nice. As you can see now, I have moved a bit further up than half of the body here, and that's where you should stop, because you want to have enough room for the thorax. And that's one of the things that is hardest, I find, to get perfect when you're tying nymphs. Many in the beginning tie with too little room for the thorax. Then I turn this so there is a small amount of room in between, so a bit of the dubbing can come out in between here, and you want, of course, to make these turns as nice and even as possible, like that. See, fairly even. If something, then there should be a bit more space between them as you move up. But yeah, you will see how this is done when you do it yourself. But try to have the same spacing between the turns. It will give you the best result. So the next thing we want is 2 antennas, and I'm gonna make those from a pheasant tail feather. And these pheasant tail feathers are truly awesome for nymphs. It's one of the materials I use the most. We're going to use it for the thorax, the wing case also. And I tie these down so the tip is pointing backwards, and so the natural curve is outward. It's not crucial or for a fishing fly, but for this one, where I try to do my absolute best, I think it's a nice touch that looks nice on the fly. So I like to add it, like so. You can see you have them sticking out on both sides, like that. Okay. Gonna cut off those, we don't need those anymore. Then I'm gonna tie down another bundle of this pheasant tail here. And this is gonna be the thorax. So I take a bunch more of fibers here. Maybe, I don't know how many this is. Just a bundle, kind of like this. And I tie these down with the tip pointing forward. These are going to be the thorax, so I tie these on top of everything here. So it's going to be straight in the middle, on top of the hook. And here comes a time where you have to keep your keep focused, because this part here is a bit more tricky, but it's one of my favorite ways to tie down hackles. I first saw it in a book that's called Master Class Fly Tying from Oliver Edwards, which is, when I was a young kid learning about fly tying, this was my absolutely favorite book in the world. So I take one of these again Brahma hackles, and then I have stripped off all the woolly part. Then I fold everything back, so I have the tip here, and then I take this, and if you look at the feather, you will have kind of like a natural curve to this feather. And what you want to do is to have that natural curve pointing downwards, so the top side of the feather is pointing down, and then the tip of the feather is pointing forward. And then you tie it where you split it up. You tie it directly on top of the hook, just where the pheasant tail was for the thorax. And all of this I don't need, so I'm going to cut this off. Like this. You could apply some kind of weight to this fly at this point. Maybe have some tungsten sheet or something like that. Would be nice for this fly at this point. Otherwise, simply just take a bit more dubbing. Compose the thorax. Use the same dubbing. If you want to add some contrast, you can take a darker dubbing or something like that. Would be nice as well. But this works nice for this. Again, just applying it the same way. When you're applying this dubbing, it's important that you leave a part of this without any dubbing. As you can see, I have a small space up here, and that's needed to make the finishing touch on the fly, to where the eye is meant to be tied down. So it's important that you have a bit of free space up there. Just gonna take a bit more dubbing. To make this even. And then I take my tying thread and move it up to the front here. Then I take my hackle, I fold it over, and then very gently I brush all the hackle fibers back in their natural position. At least up until where the point where I'm gonna tie this down. I hope that's visual, like so. So you see, I fold it over here. Then I secure it, I tie it down to hold it in place. Cut that off. And then I take my, without taking the antenna, I take my thorax here. Turn it over. And then I tie it all the way up to the eye. Because we have, and you do not cut this one off. Do not cut this one off. We need that for covering the eyes. So you see how it looks like that. Okay, then we take the eyes, and hopefully by now they are dry. and we tie these in individually because that's the only way we can do it. I try to get this, if you can see this is a bit crooked, so I try to tie this down so it's, I try to tie these two down so they are in the right position compared to one another. Then I pull, so it's all the way in the right spot. I apply some pressure. Then I'm gonna cut this off. Here you need some good scissors. Then I take the other eye. Place the other eye in the right position compared to the first one. You can force them in whatever direction you want, both afterwards with just your fingers or as you tie with the tying thread. Then I'm cutting that off. Applying some pressure to get the eyes aligned, as you can see they are here. And then the finishing touches to take, I have a few hackle fibers that are a bit annoying, but I'm gonna deal with those in a second. Then I take a bit of dubbing for the last part, and here I really mean very, very, very little dubbing. And I use this to cover where I have fastened the eyes. So I turn this in between the eyes and behind the eyes. Like this. And then I fold the thorax back over. Need to spread this a bit out. Like this, and this will give you a nice head, nice looking head to your fly. Then I make a whip finish. Cut off my tying thread, and then I cut off the leftover of this thorax thing. And you don't have to cut very precisely down. And if you wanted, you could even have some feelers in front of this as well. I have one that was in the wrong direction. And well, there you have it. Small, very, very nice looking nymph. And of course, if you want, brush out some of the dubbing underneath here to give it more lifelike appearance in the water. And well, basically, otherwise there is a lot of different techniques involved in this one. And I even showed you how to how to make your own nymph eyes. So the loon hardhead is pretty nice for making eyes like this. I'm just gonna drag out a bit of dubbing here to give it a bit more raggy look. And also, of course, you can pull out a bit of dubbing in these segments here. That also looks awesome. Gives it a more buggy and more rugged look. But do not overdo that. Then the segments will be lost. And you can't see them. So basically, there you have it. A small nymph for trout and what have we. Thank you for watching, and of course remember to subscribe or swing by my webshop for the full material kit for this fly. Thank you for watching, and good luck tying and good luck out on the water.